We're back.
Okay, I don't see the go live on the other portion.
Yeah, it takes a couple minutes. So we're at least live on Facebook and YouTube,
Okay.
and we'll see if Instagram works.
Oh, there we
We'll
go.
monitor
So I
it.
put go live.
Now
One
you can
second.
probably click it. Mine just popped up. Did your Instagram work?
Um, it looks like it did. Did it?
Well, it would say in red "End live video" in the top right corner if you clicked on it and it worked.
Yeah, but my face is just paused.
That's okay. Mine's paused too, but it's working. So
Okay.
somebody's on there. There we go.
So I'm assuming that our voice. Oh, I have 3 people. Yay! Hi. I'm assuming that we're streaming into. They're seeing us move and talk, right? We're not paused because all I see on my screen is just our faces and our frozen faces.
That is how it is supposed to be working. Yes, I'm going to check in on Facebook and see.
And talk.
Oh, yes, we're talking on Facebook.
What
Yeah.
about Instagram?
We'll look at Instagram and let me see. I see Jackie is live. Let's see.
How it is supposed to be working.
Yep, it's working.
Is my face moving?
Well, your face is always frozen, but that's a separate problem.
Well, it only took us 20 minutes out of our hour to log in.
Yeah, we need a technology expert. Like clearly, like we should be selling real estate and doing mortgages and not trying to battle with technology because we kind of suck.
Well, Ivan says he sees us and hears us, so thank you. Thank you for joining. We've been battling for the last 20 minutes to try to log into this live Real Talk Tuesdays that we do every Tuesday at 5 on Facebook and Instagram, and then we alternate with TikTok. And for whatever reason, in the past couple of weeks, we have not been able to make it work. So I'm sure you've all missed us. So because
It's
you
no
haven't been able
mystery. It's no mystery why we haven't been able to make it
yeah,
work.
we can't make it work for whatever reason, but
We're
we're
just
trying. We're
Terrible
here
at
for you.
technology.
Yeah, especially me. Like, and if I'm in my car, my phone's overheating, so it's not working out. But here we are. We're here for you. So if you've joined and if you're looking at us or hearing us, make sure to ask your questions. This space is for you. This is for all of your real estate related questions. We're going to bring you in some new hot topics regarding new programs. There's a really good new program that just came out. So anything that you have, just go ahead and put it on the comments in Spanish, English, Espanol, Inglés. We're here to help you. Brian will say, yes, hi, how are you? And that's about it. But I can answer the rest of the questions.
I'm going to handle the English stuff. You can handle the Spanish stuff.
Yeah, that's how it's going to work. So get ready.
Or if you handle if you handle the English stuff and I'll handle the Spanish stuff, and this will be really short.
Yeah, but we've already cut it into half of it. So thank you for whoever did join. Expect better from us next Tuesday on TikTok.
Yeah, but definitely ask your questions away. Go ahead and put it in the comments on whatever platform you're viewing us on, and we'll make sure that we take it up. And you're gonna try to like surprise me with a new program to talk about. What is that?
The 1% down payment assistance program, the 1% conventional program. I actually wanted to start the conversation with that program, which since it's one of my favorite down payment assistance programs. So let's do it. Let's tell everyone about that down payment program.
Yeah, so we got this back. It is a 1% down payment program. It is to be used for conventional loans, and it is for people who make 80% of the area median income. So it depends on the county that you're in. And basically we go and do a map lookup to see what county are you in, and that tells us what the area median income. So I have to actually look it up because I don't remember exactly, but I think it's like 86,700, something like that. But I'll double check while we're looking at it. But the really nice thing about it is some of your down payment assistance program have a requirement to be a first-time home buyer. And this program does not have that requirement. And the other really good thing about it is that some of the down payment assistance programs that you might see out there are a little bit higher interest rates, because basically the lender is going to give you some money to go toward your down payment. But in exchange for that, they're going to charge a higher interest rate. This one is not that way at all. It's actually a very competitive interest rate. Even if you didn't get any down payment assistance, it would basically be the same interest rate, whether you got any down payment assistance or not. But what we're willing to do is to give up to $7,000 in down payment assistance, so up to 2%, maximum of $7,000. So basically at a $350,000 purchase price, you can come in with just $3,500 for the down payment. And then beyond that, you would have closing costs that are part of what you have to pay when you purchase a home. But if you have a really good real estate agent, I don't know if we know anybody in the area, but you can get the real estate agent to negotiate to get the seller to pay a lot, if not all, of your closing costs. So it provides a great opportunity for people to get into a home on a really good interest rate and getting very little out of pocket to be able to get into a house. Do you have the situations that you've run into, Jackie, where you think that would be a better option than some of the other down payment assistance programs that we run into?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have a couple people that are on regular down payment assistance programs, or that we're on the Home in 5 Platinum down payment assistance program. And we all know that kind of came and went. So a lot of those people that were on that program already had some of the funds to cover their down payment, and they're able to benefit from this program because it has a market rate. So it's not like other down payment assistance programs like NOAA or any of those programs that have a higher than market rate, and they're also able to go conventional, which also is going to be an option for a lot of people that after the changes won't be able to finance under FHA.
Yeah, so those of you who have been listening to us for a while now and were aware of the changes, mostly for DACA recipients, where if you were not able to get financing after, what was it, May 25th, under the FHA loan program, you can still get financing under the conventional loan program, which this is the conventional loan program. So it definitely is a great option for people to be able to get into it. Now, the one thing I will say is you have to have a little bit better credit. So there's not a specific score that you have to have, but when we're going through and figuring out what somebody can get qualified for, we run the application through an automated system that determines if the risk is acceptable to approve the loan. And so what we typically see is somewhere in the high 600s, somewhere in that 660 to 680 range, we start to run into some challenges being able to get the approvals. We never know what it's going to be, so we have to just always run it to see what that option is. But generally speaking, if you're around 680 or above, then we have pretty good luck being able to get those to approve. So a little bit better credit required for this program, but definitely it's a really good program because the interest rates are awesome.
What is the minimum credit requirement?
It's not, there's no specific requirement. So basically for a conventional loan, technically it's 620. Mm-hmm. But if you had a 620 and you were doing this program, might not be able to get an approval. It's just going to depend on what that automated approval says. Generally that high 600s range is where you start to get the approvals. You struggle a little bit sometimes in the lower 600 range. And then the area median income, I looked it up as I've had numbers flip-flopped a little bit. So it is 87,000. Geez, what happened?
Another technical problem?
No, this is human error. 87,680 in Maricopa County. That's 80% of the area median income. So if you're under that level of income, you're good.
87,000. Is this program for first-time buyers only?
Nope. Do not have to be a first-time home buyer. So it's
how would that work if they already have a home? So not necessarily that this is the first home that they purchase, but they have an existing loan and they're going in to buy another primary with this conventional loan program. Would that work?
No. So the requirement with it is that you don't own another home right now. So that's going to be the issue. So you can't use it to go do another loan like this where you bought a house and you're turning that into a rental property and then you're going and doing another one. You can't have an existing house. Now, if you own one before, let's say you sold it a year ago and then you're coming back and buying another home, then you're going to be okay.
Okay. So what options are there for, I know that we actually have one, we actually had an inquiry on one of our last calls and we might have this person listening. So I definitely want to go over those options. What options does somebody have? Like somebody it's already a homeowner is trying to turn in that home into an investment home and turn around and purchase a new primary.
So are you talking about with down payment assistance?
Just no. This is just in general.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that, I mean, you and I talk to people about it, is when you have a property, it's way easier to become a quote unquote real estate investor, slumlord if you want, or maybe not slumlord, but
it's easier to start landlording.
Yeah, to start landlording when you already have a property, because sometimes you have a lot of equity in a property. So if you've owned a property for like, let's say 5 years, you've seen a huge increase in your property value, and so sometimes we can actually go and help you access some of the equity in that property that you can then turn around and use for a down payment on a new primary residence. And when you have that new primary residence, the down payment requirement is very low. So you have a 5% down payment typically if you're going to go with the conventional loan. You can possibly use an FHA loan for that second loan. There's a requirement though, in order for us to give you credit for rents that you would receive on your current house that you're turning into a rental property. In order for us to use any of that rental income, that property would have to be 100 miles away from the new property that you're purchasing using an FHA loan. So it's kind of difficult to be able to make that work unless you are really, moving a good distance away. Then it possibly could work. But if you're not moving very far away, it probably wouldn't work. Like I've got somebody right now that we're talking to. He has a house in Queen Creek, I believe. Yeah, he's in Queen Creek right now. And he has an FHA loan on that property. And after he moved into there, they put a group home in next to them. And he's like, I can't deal with it anymore. I don't want my family here. What am I going to do? And he hasn't lived there that long. So it's kind of difficult to make it work. Like if he was to try to sell it, he probably doesn't have enough equity to be able to sell it unless he did a short sale or the realtors wanted to work for free. So what we're looking at is turning it into a rental and then going and looking at a new purchase on a property that he wants to move up to Prescott Valley. So going from Queen Creek to Prescott Valley is like 140 some odd miles, measuring that out. So he could potentially use an FHA loan to purchase that new property and get credit for the rents that he would receive on the current property in Queen Creek to help offset that payment so that he can qualify for that next purchase.
All right. Well, I'm seeing a lot of new people join. So if you're just joining the call or this live and you don't know what this is about, we're here to answer. It's a space for us to answer all of your real estate related questions, anything regarding financing, markets, interest rates, down payment assistance programs, just regular FHA, conventional, any form of traditional or non-traditional financing. Please ask Brian because he's definitely the expert. I'm just here to ask the questions. And read them off the screen for you.
I had some questions for you, though. Can I ask you questions and turn the tables a little bit?
No, let's see if somebody else has a question. I'm sure they have lots of questions for you.
Nope, no questions. They're all asking questions for you.
Okay, but everybody wants to know the financing related questions, like what are the requirements? What if I don't have a 2-year work history? I know we have a couple of nurses that we're currently working with right now that they have variable income that maybe haven't been at the same place of employment for 2 years, but have been on the same industry for more than 2. So what can we do? I know that every situation is going to be different, but what can we do, or what are the options available for them?
So yeah, it's an area there's a lot of wrong information out there about. Like, everybody's heard sort of, they call it the twos in this industry. Like, you got to be on the job for 2 years. You got to be able to give 2 years tax returns, 2 years W-2s, 2 paycheck stubs, 2 bank statements. You got to be 2 years self-employed. There's a lot of that that's true, but there's also some of that that's incorrect. And even amongst lenders, I will tell you that you can ask lenders and they'll say, like, how long do you need to be self-employed? And the answer you're going to get back is 2 years. How long do you have to be on a job? 2 years. Well, the truth is that that's not correct. You can actually qualify for a loan with way less than 2 years, depending upon what your job situation is. So, for example, we'll use nurses as an example. Since you brought that up, nurses may go to nursing school. They may be in college getting their BSN. They come out of nursing school or come out of college and they go get their first job nursing. Now, the tricky thing with nurses is that there's usually a variable hours setup that makes it require a little bit longer time period for us to get a handle on what their income is going to look like. Because basically what the underwriter, who's the person making the decision on the loan, they work for the lender and they need to figure out what can we count on for somebody's income to know for sure that they're going to be able to make their payments. So basically they're going to look at their history. Well, if we don't have any history because you have a new grad, they're going to look at what is their job situation and what are their hours. So some places as nurses, you may be able to get a position at a hospital, for example, where the hospital is going to pretty much be assuring us that you're going to have 36 hours a week. Now, 36 hours a week is a normal full-time position for nurses. They'll often work 4 days a week, 9-hour shifts. That's very common for nurses. And so we would consider that full-time. And if the employer verifies that they're going to get a minimum of 36 hours a week, then we can work with a much shorter time period. Typically, it's going to require probably about 6 months. Certain programs may want to see 1 year, because what they're going to want to see is the employer's telling us that you work 36 hours, but then we're going to want to look at your paycheck stubs. Are you actually working 36 hours every week? Or is it 34 hours 1 week, 38 hours another week, 35 hours 1 week? If we start to see variable hours on those paycheck stubs, or we add up what you made, through the current year, and it doesn't add up to you working 36 hours, then you're going to be considered variable income. And then that's going to put you out to a longer time period, like at least a year before we'd have enough time period. So you can get a job if let's say you had a different job, you got an engineering degree and you got a job somewhere and they were going to have you working 40 hours a week. And that was what you were hired for. And you started working, your offer letter says you're going to work 40 hours a week. And then you get paycheck stubs and it shows you're working 40 hours a week. You can actually get a job with a solid offer letter guaranteeing you 40 hours a week. And we can close on the purchase without even you having received a paycheck stub yet. Now, you have to have a little bit of money left over, or if you at least receive one paycheck stub before we go to close, that's all we would need to receive. So you could literally come out of college, that 2-year work history you always hear referenced, the time that you were in school counts toward that 2 years. And as long as your degree is related to your job, then you can actually qualify very, very quickly after you graduate and go into a position. So 2 years is sort of a guideline, but certain circumstances, if there's consistency there and we can count on it going forward, you're going to be okay. Way shorter than 2 years. Oftentimes it may be a month or 6 months or something like that.
I actually have a question. I just got a question regarding HELOCs, equity lines of credit. So how does somebody that's already a homeowner can benefit from pulling a HELOC out to purchase other properties, and not necessarily, let's say that they were buying another property, renting the current property, pulling a HELOC without using it, or if they ended up using it to purchase other properties, how could that help them or benefit them?
Yeah, so a lot of times what we do, so after we close on a purchase transaction for somebody, what we automatically are doing in that process is we're going to want to know what are their plans going forward. Do they have an interest in maybe investing in real estate down the road? And we're going to be checking in every 6 months with them to see, hey, what's life circumstances? Do they have another kid on the way? Do they get a different job? Do they need some upgrades to the house? Whatever. And what we want to do is we want to plan ahead as early as we can. So if they came into the house like putting 20% down, or maybe they've owned it for a few years and now they've got good amount of equity, putting a home equity line of credit in place ahead of time is really good planning, because if you have a home equity line of credit in place, most of the time they'll go up to about 90% of the current market value, and you just subtract out what the current balance is, and that'll tell you how much credit line that you can get approved for. So if you have a home equity line of credit in place, or we put one in place, you can then in the future, depending upon the bank that we go through, it might be 3 years, it might be 5 years, it might be 10 years, where you can actually access that money, pull it out, and use it for whatever you want to use it for. No restrictions. You can do whatever you want to with it. And the nice thing about that is that's a way that a lot of people have been able to use to access money for down payment to go purchase another property down the road. Sometimes people will actually have already converted a property into a rental property, and they got a bunch of equity tied up in it, but they might have had an interest rate on that loan that might be 4% or something like that, and they don't want to refinance to pull out the equity. Well, we have banks that will actually do home equity lines of credit on rental properties. They're not going to go up to that 90%. They're probably going to go to 70%, maybe 75%. But if there's enough equity there, they can put a line of credit, or sometimes it's a fixed rate second mortgage. That's another option that's pretty popular on investment properties. Is you don't have an open credit line that you use, but let's say if you got a loan that maybe was $50,000 or $75,000, you get that loan, you get the interest rate, you get a fixed payment. The interest rates are going to be higher than you'd have on the first mortgage, but that's why you would do that second mortgage or that home equity line of credit, because you didn't want to touch your low interest rate on your first mortgage. So they're great ways to be able to access some of the equity that you built up to go buy additional real estate or even consolidate debts. Because if you got credit card debts, you're probably paying 25 to 35% interest on those. Even if you're paying 8, 9, 10% on a second mortgage or a home equity line of credit, you're going to save yourself a ton of money by doing that.
So the question specifically is, this person is actually already in the process of purchasing a different home, but they have a ton of equity on their current home that they already own. So it's their current primary, but it's becoming their investment property because they're renting it. Their payment is relatively low. So the payment is about $800-900, but they're going to be able to rent it for more, at least twice as much as what the current payment is. So let's say, the rental comps in that area are about $2,000 or more. So they're definitely going to cash flow a little over $1,000, and they want to see how they could benefit from pulling that equity line of credit to purchase different properties or to purchase other homes and have the rental income for both the primary mortgage and the financial.
Your microphone's really cutting out a lot. I think I caught all of it. So you're wanting to know about they're already purchasing another property. How can you access through a home equity line of credit on the current one that they have, because they've got a bunch of cash flow? So we would have to dig into that a little bit and see how much equity they have there, because if you're doing it where you're already in the process of purchasing another home, then that one may need to be considered an investment property. The one that you currently have that you're trying to turn into an investment property, we would have to actually present that scenario to the bank that we would be looking at and see if you haven't left the property yet, will they treat it as a primary residence, since that's currently what it is. But we have to disclose to them what your plan is, and if you're already in the process of buying another property, and let the bank tell us if they're going to treat it as a primary residence or they're going to treat it as an investment property. Because we always have to make sure that we're being honest and truthful about what the intended use is of the property. So we just tell the bank, here's what its plan is. You tell us how you want us to process it, and then we go that direction. So I can't give you a cut and dry answer because it depends on how much equity you have, what lender we might be looking at, and then we'd have to check with the lender to see how they're going to interpret that.
Okay, but speaking in general terms, this would be a good, perhaps a good plan or a good strategy for people to use to purchase other properties and still have, per se, the current tenant pay for both.
Yeah, definitely. The earlier you do a home equity line of credit, the better, because the issue comes into play is if you're going to do a loan and you're living in it as your primary residence, and you tell the lender that this is your primary residence, and then you move out a month later, if you didn't tell them that was your intention, that could be a problem because you weren't disclosing all the material facts. That's why we always just tell people. So if you do it earlier and then your plans change 6 months down the road and you decide that you're going to buy a different property, it's much easier to be able to say, hey, I didn't have this plan, I just changed my mind. We decided we want to do something different. Your life circumstances can change. That's okay. But what you don't want to get into is like being under escrow on a new purchase and then not tell the lender that you're trying to get the home equity line of credit from that you're buying another property. They think you're going to still live in the one they're lending on. That's the thing that we want to stay away from. But in general, the home equity line of credit is a fantastic tool to be able to take out some of that equity and then be able to purchase the next home.
And the key word I would say is line of credit. So it's not a loan that you're taking out right now, that you're taking $100,000, $200,000 out and you have to use the money right now, or you have to have the money right now, right? It's sort of like a credit card. You pay as you use, right? So if you want to pull 3,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 or whatever that is, pay it back. You're only paying interest on the amount that you use. You're not paying interest on the full equity amount.
Yep, exactly. And another way to utilize things a little bit differently. So I had a few months ago a client referred to me, and they were wanting to sell their house, but they didn't want to sell it first. And so they were like, well, we're going to have, I don't remember the numbers exactly. Let's just say it was $300,000 in proceeds from the sale of their house. And their plan was to take that and put that as a down payment on the next house. That's, kind of typical. People take the equity and you move it over the next one, but they didn't want to sell first. They wanted to buy first. And so what we did is, instead of trying to put the home equity line of credit on the house that they were about to sell, what we did is we had them bring 5% down payment, which he had assets that would be sufficient to bring 5% down. And then we did the first mortgage for the purchase price that he was buying minus the 300 that he wanted to put down. So let's just make up numbers. Let's say it was a $900,000 purchase. He wanted a $600,000 loan at the end of the day. And so we just had him bring 45,000, so 5% down. And the difference there, that 255,000 or whatever that works out to be, and we had that come from a home equity line of credit. So we did a home equity line of credit and a first mortgage on the purchase for him. Then a few months later, whenever he sells the other property, he takes the proceeds, pays himself back the $45,000 that he liquidated to put into the down payment, and then the other $255,000 he paid down the line of credit to zero. But to your point, he left it open. So we had this big line of credit open and available, and he wanted to have that so that if he wanted to do any renovations to the property, or we got him possibly thinking about buying a different investment property. So he had all that money. He had a home equity line of credit in place that he could utilize. He wasn't paying any payments on it because he had a zero balance, but it was open and available to him when he wanted to use it for whatever he wanted to use it for. So sometimes we just do it in the opposite order, if that makes more sense for their situation.
Well, for anybody that just joined, these are some of the strategies, some of the things that we talk about to help you buy multiple properties in a short period of time. But we are really just here to answer any questions that you have, whether they be about investing in a property or investing in multiple properties, strategies, down payment assistance, just financing questions, or any real estate related questions that you have. Just feel free to comment them or put them in the comments, send us a message, and we can also touch base next time. We're trying to do this every Tuesday at 5. Every other Tuesday is going to be on Facebook, Instagram, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And then the following Tuesday is going to be on TikTok if you can get it.
Try to keep track of that.
Yeah, because that's worked out so well.
So I have a question for you. One of the things that people wonder about when they're thinking about, purchasing a house and looking at closing costs and what do they do. If you have, let's say you're in a lease for a property, an apartment or something, and you've got another like 5 months on it. What kind of things can you do to try to help offset the fact that you've still got, several months left on a lease that might stop you from being able to go purchase a property?
Well, there's definitely different strategies for that. One of the things that we do is try to negotiate as much closing cost credit to I forgot the word. Step in for me.
Compensate. Offset.
Yes. I can't speak English sometimes, mostly all the time. So yes, we try to negotiate like closing costs to compensate for the cost of breaking the lease, and not only to compensate for what the cost is, but to actually cover the closing costs and potentially get you additional credits to make your payment more affordable. If we're able to do a temporary buy down or a permanent buy down, the savings in your monthly payment is what ultimately over time is going to save you that money up front and over time on your monthly payment. So there's definitely a lot of options for that. Another thing that we always try to do as well is align the closing date to closer to the end of your lease. So sometimes, let's say that you're out shopping for a home right now, it's June 17th, and your lease is 20 October. So what we do is try to align your closing date. Let's say that we make your closing date in the first week of August. So if we make your closing date in the first week of August, then that's gonna your first payment's not gonna be due until October, August, October, right? No, wait, November.
Okay, now you're back. Your mic was really, really bad there, but it sounds better now.
Well,
you're good now.
What were you listening to me? Was anybody listening to me?
I was trying, but it was hard.
Okay, so I'm going to say it again. So one of the strategies that we use is to try to align the closing date, right? That is closest to your lease end date. So let's say that your lease was ending in October, right? So right now is June 17, you're out shopping for homes. We can try to align your closing date to, let's say, the first week of August. What that's going to help you in is it's going to cause your payment to not be due in September, but be due in October. So once your lease is due, you can just move from one property to the other without paying at both properties at the same time. Another strategy that we use is to try to negotiate as much as possible in concessions, so we can only just cover your closing costs, but also get you enough credits to buy down your rate, whether that's temporarily or permanently, to offset the payment monthly and to ultimately make your payments more affordable and compensate for what you're losing by breaking the lease. So if, for example, we were able to negotiate 5-6% in seller concessions, you're covering your closing costs, and we can use the remainder of the concessions to do a temporary buy down, like a 2-1 buy down. That could save you anywhere from $200-$300 depending on the purchase price a month, and a savings of $200-$300 for the first 2 years every month is going to ultimately offset what you have to pay.
We're starting to have a really bad problem with your mic again.
Maybe it's just my English.
No, it's the mic, but now you sound good.
Maybe I'm not speaking loud enough.
Maybe, because when you said something loud, it came in loud and clear.
Okay, so hopefully
you got the fact that you were getting to the point where it started getting bad, where you were talking about the temporary buy down and saving a few $100s a month over a long period of time, so you can kind of pick it up from there.
Yeah, so why don't you talk to us about temporary buy downs, since that's your area of expertise and I'm apparently not loud enough.
See, now you're leaning forward and you're talking loud. We can hear you good.
Well,
I'll pick up for you there. So this was a scenario we just had, and an offer was just submitted for one of your team members. And what the idea was is there was about a $1,500 early termination penalty on her lease. And so what we did is we suggested doing a 2-1 buy down where we get the seller to give a bunch of money. What we basically do is we calculate out, let's say if the market rate was, and I'm just going to throw out a number, so this is not today's rates, but let's just say it was 6.5. And on a 2-1 buy down, we buy down that rate to 4.5 for the first year, which is 2% lower than the note rate. The second year is 5.5 or 1% lower than the note rate. And then the third year would be 6.5. So what we do is we calculate out what is the lower payment based upon that 2% lower interest rate. In her case, I'm going to round it. I think it was about $300 a month lower payment for the first year. The second year was a little over $150 lower payment. So basically we calculate out, okay, $300 a month for a year is going to be $3,600. And then about half of that, or about $1,800 for the second year. So it's about $5,400 roughly that we get from the seller. You make an offer and ask the sellers to give enough seller contributions to pay that $5,400. That money gets held by the lender in a separate account. It's basically a buy down subsidy account. And then while you're making those $300 lower payments, what's happening is the lender is taking $300 out of that subsidy account, pairing it with the money that you as the buyer are paying each month, and then sending that to the investor that bought the loan. So they're using that money little bit by little bit. Well, the advantage of what we were doing was we were comparing it to a down payment assistance program that was a grant. So it would give, I think in that case, it was $8,700. Let's round it to $9,000. And that was going to be given one time, no repayment, no second mortgages or anything. And so what we were looking at is, okay, if you're going to do that, you're going to have an interest rate that was considerably higher. That was like 7.75% versus something in the low 6s. So the actual difference in the payment was going to be like $530, I want to say, a month difference between those. Well, if you're going to choose the 2-1 buy down and have the seller give you $5,400 for that, and then you're going to save $530 a month. Well, after 2 months, you've made up enough savings to make up for the fact that you had a $1,500 early termination fee on the lease. So now you've more than made up for that. But now the rest of the year, you're saving that $500 a month for the rest of the first year. So now you've probably got, now my math is going to get really bad, 9 months, $4,500 in savings. And then the next year, you probably had another $200, $250 a month. So overall, in the long term, over 2 years, she was going to be saving a lot more money by taking the seller's money to do the 2-1 buy down and lock herself into a much lower interest rate than she would be by getting free money in the form of that down payment assistance grant. So she decided, okay, well, let's go that route because she did have some money to be able to put down. So it was a way for us to get the seller to give enough money to lower those payments and make up for that early lease termination fee of $1,500. So it's just creative strategies, trying to figure out like what are some different options to consider, and then figure out what works best for the client. We got guest stars today, huh? Got the kids coming home. Very cool.
Right in time before the end of our call. So we might have to end it. I'm sorry, what?
It seems like such a short live today. Why is that?
Because technical problems, user errors, but next time we'll be ready to go. So join next Tuesday. We're going to be on TikTok next Tuesday. Hopefully we can make it work. I'm going to do my live so I can finally get approved. No more driving on live. Got it.
And if you guys are still watching and you send us a message, if you guys work with us and you close a home purchase with us, we have a special incentive for you guys that are viewing today. Jackie will give up to $700 toward a free home warranty. And for us, if you're doing certain down payment assistance programs don't apply, but some of them do, you can get up to $650 in a credit toward an appraisal. So up to $1,350 to work with the two of us. If you close a transaction with us, we don't have a time deadline on it. So if you start the process and have the consultation, you'll get the coupon for that. And if the timing's not right and it takes you 6 months or a year to buy, we'll still honor that for you.
All right. Well, thank you for joining. See us next Tuesday at 5 on TikTok. And don't forget to send us all of your questions via DM or, well, actually DM, because in the comments we won't be able to see it anymore. See you next Tuesday.